The year was 1928. Calvin Coolidge was President of the United States. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. A gallon of gas cost only 21 cents. And George Gershwin debuted his latest composition entitled An American in Paris to rave reviews. This was also the year my mother, Hanna Zanger, came into the world in southwest Germany in the town of Karlsruhe, the youngest of two children born to my grandparents, Betty and Adolf Zanger. My mother lived a normal life until the age of 8, when her country was taken over by the Nazi regime.
Life was typically middle-class Jewish family. We had a family, a large part of the family lived in Karlsruhe, some outside. I went to school. I went to kindergarten. When I was little, we had a nursemaid to take care of us. But it was very ordinary, middle-class German Jewish family.
After the Nazis staged a violent pogrom against the Jews known as Kristallnacht, the British government eased immigration restrictions for certain categories of Jewish refugees. British authorities agreed to allow an unspecified number of children under the age of 17 to enter Great Britain from Germany, provided that they guaranteed payment for each child's care, education, and eventual immigration from Britain.
But I think I was one of the first, earliest, because after 39, after 39, they went on and on and on. 10,000 children ended up in England, 10,000 of these children. And I remember, I don't remember, but my mother told me later on, and of course I must have said all of this in German, and I don't recall, but obviously the other child that I was with was crying, and carrying on at this, when it came time to say goodbye, and my mother said, I turned around and said, why is he crying? He should be happy to get out of this godforsaken country. And she literally translated, this is what I told my mother. And my parents were pretty good about it. My mother was, it was very difficult for her, but I, being the kind of kid I was, it made things a little easier for them that I wasn't, carrying on, and as many children were to be torn away from their family. But to me, in a way, it was an adventure, and I knew my parents were waiting to go to the United States, and it never occurred to me, it never occurred to any of us that there was a possibility that you wouldn't see your family.
It was understood at the time that when the crisis was over, the children would return to their families. My grandparents were able to get my mother onto the Kindertransport, a rescue effort that brought thousands of German Jewish children to Great Britain between 1938 and 1940. So off went little 9-year-old Hannah on a train separated from her parents and her home with a single suitcase in one hand and clutching tightly to her favorite toy, a baby doll, in the other. Mom was very lucky. The British family that took her in, the Fortunes, were loving, generous, and kind. They treated Mom like their own child. They had 4 children, all in their teenage years at the time. They became my mother's new second family. I learned years later from one of Mom's adopted sisters that Mr. Fortune warned their children to be kind to little Hannah, otherwise it would be they that would be asked to leave, not she. The Fortunes all were wonderful to my mother, but not beyond playing some practical jokes when she first arrived. Mom didn't know English back then, and she certainly didn't know the difference between German and English mustard. She found out the hard way when the only Fortune son convinced Mom, who loved German mustard, which is mild, to try a big spoonful of the very spicy English type. Needless to say, she never made that mistake again. During the London bombing, Mom was sent to a boarding school outside of London, where she met many other refugee children from Germany. It was there that she met several girls that came to be lifelong friends, including Lily Rosenberg. While many of us would look at the hardships these kids endured and say, how did they get through it? My mother always had a positive spin on it. She says it taught her to appreciate what all of us take for granted. Game playing with friends, a piece of chocolate once in a while when sweets and most other foods were strictly rationed, and feeling safe even in times of war. After the war, Mom's parents, who were able to emigrate to the United States, sent for her. Mom was reluctant to go. She loved life in England and the family that she had lived with for those 7 years. But it was Mrs. Fortune that told her she must go and reunite with her parents. Imagine how they must miss you, she said, and also know that you always have your family here. You are always welcome back anytime you want to come. After my parents married, and when she could afford it, Mom did go back. She went back almost every year and would spend a week or more in London and in the English countryside, visiting her family and friends that she made during that time. She frequently hosted them and their children and their children's children at our home when they visited the States. She never forgot their kindness and how that shaped much of her life. My brother and I also came to know them when we were young and accompanied Mom on one of her annual trips. Mom had so many friends. People just loved her. I think it was because she could talk to anyone about virtually anything other than perhaps sports. She was well-read and informed and never hesitated to express her opinion, but she also listened intently to whomever she was speaking. She loved entertaining and having people to our home. Her July 4th parties were legendary and became an annual tradition. She was a fabulous cook and baker, something, unfortunately, I did not inherit. When she entertained, she made it look so easy. She never wanted anyone to help her. It became a bone of contention between us. She would throw parties for upwards of 70 people or more, cooking everything herself, serve it on dishes, no paper plates for her, and refuse to hire anyone to help clean up. I would often say to her, Mom, why don't you just get some help? She would come up with every excuse in the book, including that no one else would know where to put away the dishes. And while she claimed that it was my dad who was the stubborn one, we all knew who the real stubborn one was. Dad and Mom had a lifelong romance. Dad always called her Pussycat. They were blessed with 66 years of married life, and all the while there was rarely a mean or nasty word exchanged between them. They loved to travel and took annual trips to Europe, Asia, South America, and across this country, usually mixing business and fun. They were very different people, but shared so many of the same core values: a love for family, the importance of strong and lasting friendships, and the benefit of hard work. When Dad decided to start a business at the age of 25, only 1 year after their marriage, Mom was completely supportive. Dad and Mom invested all of their money, $500, and Mom supported them so Dad could plow all the first-year earnings back into the company. From virtually nothing grew a business that is now known throughout the world as a premier stone and tile business. Mom was instrumental in helping Dad grow the business and make it what it is today. Mom was always frugal but never cheap. She cut coupons long after she needed to and was a lifelong discount shopper. The only time she disregarded price tags was when she traveled. One time, when I was in college and spending a semester in Rome, Mom and Dad visited during one of their many trips abroad. Mom had a wad of Italian money, lira back then, probably more than $8,000, that Dad had given her, expecting it to last the week in Rome. On her first day, off she and I went to the Via Condotti, then the most expensive street in the city, and Mom started to shop. Needless to say, Gucci's had a great day that day. When she returned to the hotel with loads of shopping bags and very little cash, Dad, who rarely questioned her spending, asked her how much she spent. She said she had no idea. Dad then informed her that it was over $6,000, which 45 years ago was a bit of money. She acted surprised, but knowing her, I doubt she was surprised. Mom appreciated nice things, but never yearned for them. Dad bought her beautiful jewelry and other great gifts, which she wore often, but she always let it be known that she could live perfectly happily without any of them. She knew what was really important and what was to be cherished. I will always remember what she said to me years ago when I asked her why she didn't take Dad up on his offer to buy her a larger diamond. She said, "You know, now that I can have whatever I want, I really don't want anything." Family, friendships, and good health were what was really important to her. Mom had great friends. Mickey has been her closest friend for over 60 years. They met at the mailbox in the apartment building in Riverdale where they lived as young married couples. Their first meeting started a lifelong friendship that was incredibly special. They spoke by phone every day, often for hours. Dad, John, and I couldn't understand how there could be anything left to say when they spoke for 2 hours just the day before, but evidently there was. Other great friends were Suzanne, Lily, Marion, Cynthia, and Steffi, to name a few. Mom had so many. She was a wonderful and generous friend to them, and they to her. But most of all, Mom loved her family. Mom and I had our issues during my adolescence. Never one to hide her views or avoid confrontation. Back then, we often argued at high decibel levels. But I always knew she wanted me to be the best I could be, and above all, to be independent and self-sufficient. While Dad was the one who steered me to be a lawyer, Mom gave me the tools to succeed as one. Over the years, Mom and I stopped our bickering and grew very close. While she was strict in certain respects and a stickler for good manners, my brother and I knew that Mom always had our backs. She supported us in all of our endeavors. And when the grandsons came along, they of course could do no wrong. It was then that she developed a strange form of amnesia, forgetting to enforce those strict rules she had imposed on us. Towards the end of her life, Mom told me she had no regrets. She loved her life, her family, friends, and was grateful for all the wonderful memories. She accepted the inevitable with grace and courage, and only wanted to make sure that Dad would be okay. Since her passing, so many people from all over the world have written to or called my brother and I to tell us how wonderful a person she was and how her friendship and support touched their lives. Those we love don't go away. They live in our hearts, unseen, unheard, but always near. Still loved, still missed, but very dear.